Welcome, Julie George, to the Patrick Real Estate Show. I am so excited to interview you and actually talk to you about your story, everything you've accomplished. For those people that don't know, get educated because Julie George is a big time player in the industry. She's one of the best. Honestly, she has an incredible accent that makes her sound really smart in everything that she says. And I'm just so happy to just be talking about managing short-term rentals, how to scale a short-term rental business, and really how to take things from ground up to selling the business, how to make it sellable to begin with, because a lot of people don't even think about that. She knows how to do every single portion of leading teams, managing rentals, being a hospitable host. She does it all. And I think we have great chemistry when we talk. So I'm really excited for this episode. Julie George, welcome to the show.
G'day. Thank you, Patrick. Folks, if you're listening in, I actually made Patrick do that intro twice because I loved it so much that I tricked him and said that the camera wasn't working, made him re-record it. But really, I just like hearing Patrick say nice things. So, Patrick, thanks for having me. I'm coming to you from Australia. I'm a day ahead of you in Australia, and I always joke about it, but really and truly, the future is bright in short-term rentals.
She's a day ahead. So she's also a time traveler. I forgot to tell you guys. She knows the future one day ahead, and she knows short-term rentals look really good tomorrow, don't they, Julie?
Oh my gosh. And on a serious note, folks, we are on the cusp of something amazing with this industry. And folks, if you're just getting into the industry, if you're just thinking about it, even if you're curious about short-term rentals, get in, because we are about to see an industry explode in the most amazing way.
That's awesome. Before we get into even all that, why don't you go ahead and explain your 90-second, who are you? What do you do? What's Julie George doing day to day? What's she up to? What's she accomplished in short-term rentals?
Oh, my favorite story to tell. Okay, so folks, if you haven't heard of me, I'm also known as the $1 Million Host, shamelessly plugging my book right behind me, as well as the newest book that I've written called Hospitable Hosts. It's about to be turned into a Netflix series. So if you're a Netflix watchers out there, stay tuned. You may see this face and hear this voice on your televisions very soon. My claim to fame is that back in 2016, all those years ago, 6 years ago, it's crazy how quickly things can change. But back in 2016, I had one short-term rental. I discovered the amazing returns on investment. I realized the incredible people that were coming through my property, and just looked at the opportunity and thought, I can do this for other people. I can take property investors' homes and properties and turn them into short-term rentals, charge a commission for it, and start a property management business. So I did that. 2016, started Host My Home in Australia, grew that to 130 properties. Yes, 130 properties, 2.5 years, very quick scaling of that business, and over $8 million in income generated in that time. So massive success in the short-term rental property management business. 2019, I had a knock on the door. Someone wanted to buy my business. And so, folks, we are talking about a sellable business that we are creating when we're managing other people's homes. Sold my business just prior to COVID. How's that for looking into the future? So just a few months prior to COVID, sold my short-term rental business. And now I get to, and at the time, Zoom became my best friend, because I started consulting and teaching other budding entrepreneurs just how to replicate the success that I've had in the short-term rental industry. So stage, TV, media, writing books, this is my life now, but it's all about giving back and hopefully helping others and impacting on others and showing them how that they can maybe turn short-term rentals into a full-time gig for themselves or an empire, just like I did.
Yeah, that's great. That being said, where do you see short-term rentals going in the future through your experience?
This is the exciting part. So, folks, as I mentioned before, the future is really bright for short-term rentals. So we've got the perfect storm. Travel is opening up again now, especially for the Aussies. You will notice that the Australian accents will be thick and fast coming to your properties very soon, because we've only just been allowed to leave our country. Only a few months ago, travel opened up. The preference, of course, now for all travelers is to choose short-term rentals over hotels, over traditional accommodation of motels, for a few reasons. And a few of those reasons I discovered myself just recently, staying in a fancy, well, the Lowe's Resort in Miami. You couldn't get much fancier than that. I was there for a conference, was put up in a motel, discovered I needed a washing machine desperately. I wanted to make myself a cup of tea. There was no kettle or any water heating device. I ended up packing up, leaving the motel, finding a short-term rental. And I think that what we're finding is travelers want that. They want the convenience of cooking their own meals, washing their own clothes, having the space to not worry about deadly viruses that might be around. And I just think that the opportunity is now, folks. If you have got a space that you can rent, whether it's an RV in your front yard, whether it's a spare bedroom in your property, or your neighbors are going on an extended vacation and they want to do something with their property, look for those opportunities, turn that into a solution for these travelers looking for accommodation. It's a win-win.
What do you think about all these looming economy questions about travel is going to start going down? People don't really have enough money. The recession's coming up.
I don't listen to that. I just see during COVID, we were all stuck Zooming, right? I just feel like we're just itching to get out and we want to get out and connect with people. I don't know that we're traveling so much to see the sights anymore. And I know that Brian Chesky from Airbnb also said something similar. He could have stolen it from me, or I could have stolen it from him. But people are traveling to connect with other humans. They're wanting to see family, friends that they haven't seen for a long time. However, those family and friends may not want them staying with them in their house. So that's where short-term rentals comes into play. I just feel like a lot of people have saved money during the little 2-year hiatus we've had Zooming with each other. I don't believe it. I think there's a lot of naysayers out there and there's a lot of worry warts, as we say in Australia. Look, I'm traveling as much as I possibly can keep up with the jet lag. My friends and families, they're all doing the same. I just think that we are, get ready. You know what? I think the only one thing that is holding us back, Patrick, is the staff shortages with the airlines, staff shortages with the hotels and short-term rental, even our short-term rental operators. I talk to a lot of hosts that are struggling to find cleaners and therefore not expanding as fast as they maybe they could have. So folks, I don't believe it for a second. Get ready for a boom in short-term rentals.
That's great. And to go off of that, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here as well. What about saturation? Great. Everyone's traveling more.
Yeah.
What about my house versus everybody else's house?
Yeah,
Joshua Street, Big Bear, these top places where people were making insane amounts of money during
the
last 2 years of COVID, right? People were driving to those destinations. And now all these hosts are there. How do you compete with everybody? How do you even, it's so saturated. Why should I even get started if it's still saturated?
Good point. And a lot of people are jumping onto this. Well, we're spreading the word too well, Patrick. That's the problem. Everyone's wanting a piece of the short-term rental pie. If you're listening in right now, this is where you take the opportunity to level up your listing and really make sure that you have got something different to offer compared to your competitor. To do that, you need education. So the fact that you're listening in on this podcast, Patrick, and you can take advantage of, well, I was going to say take advantage of Patrick, but that would be a bit rude, but take advantage of anything that Patrick might be offering in terms of education. Listen in on there's a lot of free YouTube videos out there showing you maybe what to put in your properties now. And there is pretty good studies showing that maybe like coffee machines or hot tubs maybe more attractive to people if they're traveling. I see a lot of listings. There might be a bit of saturation out there, but there's a lot of properties I would never stay at. I look at the linen in the photos. They haven't taken any care in putting those listings together. I think the professionals, the people who are out there taking this very seriously will do very well. Unfortunately, I think we'll see a few of those properties drop off in those areas. Do it right and you've got nothing to worry about.
That's true. And I tell that to people all the time because people come into Joshua Tree expecting, oh, well, I can just put normal furniture, not really take any efforts, go on Facebook Marketplace, put some things in here and just kind of slap it together and put it up. And it doesn't work that way anymore.
We used to be able to do that. I'm just thinking, Patrick, back in 2016, 17, when we started, you can get away with anything because people were curious enough about short-term rentals and Airbnb that they wanted to come and stay. So it didn't matter if you had your Walmart coverings on your beds or the very basic no bedside tables, that sort of stuff. People didn't care. Even Wi-Fi, it was an option. Now it's an essential. So I think we've had to level it up, but we've also had to level up our professionalism. Not everybody is a good host and not everybody is born to be an instant hotel manager. I say hotel, but we're not all in the accommodation hospitality space or born to be in it. So for some, I see a lot of people try this and then realize the 24/7 stress that might be behind short-term rentals. And folks, there is a bit of hard work initially, but once you can get your head around the processes, the procedures, you find a team to help you. And if you want to level up to the stage that I got to, it's about putting that framework in place. And then, at 130 properties, I was working 10 hours a week, but that was because I was smart in the beginning, putting in a good structure. You can do that too. If you've got 2 properties, 3 properties, you can still do that, but level it up and make sure that you, your team, your staff are as high level and high standard as well as the way that you furnish these properties.
Yeah. And to go off of that as well, you have to have the systems and processes in place to really be able to reap the benefits of this business. It's a business at the end of the day, folks. I'm going to say the same thing you do with the folks. Yeah. Hey, folks, this is the way to do the business, guys. This is the way. Listen to the Aussie. She knows. She's $1 million host. Okay. So going off of that, what systems and operations would you recommend to have just right off the get-go to be able to scale this into a full-fledged business that could be bought out?
Great question. And this is where I see a lot of hosts making a big mistake. They are chasing all the shiny objects. There's a lot of software out there. There are a lot of tools that you can use in short-term rentals. I would say to people, automate, but don't complicate your business because you can overdo it. You can put too much money into all the softwares, that type of thing. You don't need to. I'm going to tell you a little secret. In that 130 properties, I was not running a PMS. I was only on Airbnb. I know a lot of people don't even realize this. I was 100% Airbnb, ran off that platform. I was running a Xero for accounting and then a real estate software. That was it. Now, my biggest regret was I was not using dynamic pricing. So that is the number one tool. I would say that even if you think, so my thought process was, how is anybody overseas going to tell me in Australia what I should be pricing my properties at? They're not going to know the local events. They're not going to know what the trends are in Australia. Well, how wrong am I? This industry is addictive. So I've now got back in and I'm running a few short-term rentals down here. First thing I did was put on dynamic pricing. I discovered that I was getting 10 to 12% more on my properties per night by using dynamic pricing than me guessing the price. So you know what I did, Patrick? I went back to when I was running 130 properties, $8 million income. Can you work out what 10 to 12% of $8 million was? And that's what I lost. $1 million lost.
Almost $1 million.
Because I was an idiot and didn't use dynamic pricing. So get onto dynamic pricing, folks. If you are running on multiple channels, you do need a PMS. You need a channel manager to be able to organize all that. So you do need some software, but don't chase the shiny objects and feel that you need everything. If just use the things that, well, talk to Patrick, talk to myself, get in touch and find out exactly what you need. The other thing that you need is that you need to almost put together a playbook for your business, a business plan of everything that you require. So your standard cleaning checklist, you want to have standards in your property of what the property should look like. So those photographs you've got on the listing, make sure your cleaners have a copy of those to replicate and put the cushions Make the beds the same as what's in the photos. You need to be able to have that, get what's out of your head down in black and white, so that the business is not dependent on you. And that's probably my key suggestion for anybody is, make sure if you're going to scale it, you can't be the brains of the operation. You've got to put it down in black and white so you can pass it off to somebody and they can run it just like, think like a franchise. McDonald's everywhere around the world, you're going to get the same burger. Well, maybe, but you know what you're going to get? I want you to start thinking about that for your properties. If you can write down what your expectations are, what the cleaning checklist, the processes, put it together, hand it out. That's probably one of the first things you need to do.
So, Julie, how do you go about actually creating, and what I call these are standard operating procedures, right? SOPs. And how do you go about writing this down? And what are you supposed to write down? There's so many things you do throughout the day.
Absolutely. And this is where it trips a lot of people up. And a lot of people out there don't even like to document anything. So there's the frustration of, while you're doing the documentation, you're not earning money, you're not being productive. Folks, I've got to tell you that the few hours it's going to take for you to do the documentation, to put these, like, let's talk about, so one of the very first things is a cleaning checklist. What do you expect in that property? And where should a cleaner start in that property? So you might say to a cleaner, cleaning checklist, strip the beds, check for damages, check the bedroom drawers for charges, for anything left behind. Start by either writing it down yourself as you're going through and cleaning the property yourself, just jot down, or here's the other trick, take a video. Loom is your friend. If you haven't heard of Loom, folks, that's a really good option to just record a video. So you can record it with voice and just say, okay, step 1, strip the bed. Step 2, check the drawers. Step 3, grab all the towels and the laundry together. But work through it as if you are the one cleaning it, and then record everything. And even down to the finer details of, look under the sofa, check the freezer. There's some things that people just don't do. And I promise you, if a guest opens up the freezer and they find, I don't know, half-eaten dinner or something like that, that's not going to fare well for you. I've got to say, so I went and checked up on my cleaners the other day. And of course, I do a few things that I've just told you, just to see if they've followed my directions. I opened up the bedside drawers. It was full of, let's say that our guests had a very good time and left behind some of their toys and accessories. So anyway, number 1, cleaning checklist is probably one of the first things that I would do. And then maybe second would be messaging. If you're getting someone to help you with messaging, if it's a virtual assistant, if it's your cleaner, or maybe it is that you're doing it through a software, it's probably putting together those automated regular messages. So you've got a template to use. So start thinking about what you're doing on a regular basis. If you're doing it more than once or twice in a week, automate it, do something, be able to put a template together, and then you possibly find that that's something you can pass off. So then you can concentrate on higher worth tasks and put your time into, for me, it was going out and finding new listings to manage and then passing off the messaging, passing off the cleaning to somebody else.
How big was your team, Julie?
I had about 18 people working for me. And the secret source for me was to find co-hosts that were going to do the day-to-day guest interaction, the messaging, meeting and greeting those guests, cleaning and laundry. And I was giving them responsibility of a complete property to do all of those things, but then profit sharing with them. And so charging 25% to the homeowner and then passing off 6% of that to my co-host plus the cleaning fee. So folks, that was the secret formula to be able to start by saying to my first co-host was Glenn, who was 70. And he said to me, I want to do something other than retire. And I said, well, here, Glenn, here's 5 properties. You're responsible for all of those things I just mentioned, the guest interaction. And you know what, by saying to him that I trust you, you're responsible, I got him to sign off that he would cover the costs of any linen that was missing. If we didn't charge the guest, he would be the one that would pay for it. By giving them responsibility of those properties and empowering them and then paying them well with a profit share, it was like I was running a franchise operation. So I was the umbrella company and then these co-hosts were working under me. Magic formula. So I could then set and forget, go off, find some more properties. So in total, I had 15 co-hosts and then I had 3 employees when I had 130 properties. But here's the thing, sorry, obviously very excited here, Patrick. I didn't employ anybody. I didn't give anybody a salary or a wage until I had 50 properties. Until then, it was all the co-hosts were contractors. So they were only getting paid when I was getting paid. So it lowered the risk, but it also meant that they were out there trying to encourage guests to stay longer, upsell the guests to other amenities or tours or anything that we were selling as an upsell. That encouraged them to quickly respond to any inquiries on the property. So we got the bookings. So it was a win-win.
It was aligned. It was aligned. Their incentives were aligned to help grow the business because everyone wanted to win with the business because you get a profit of that business. And I have a really good story for you, Julie, as well. There was this one guy, I remember reading about this one guy that could never break $200 million a year. He just couldn't. He wanted to get to the billion and he just couldn't figure it out. And he kept plateauing. And the moment that he decided to profit share and give away more of his equity, which he thought was going to make him worth less, he kind of gave up on the idea. And he just thought, you know what? I just want to give back to people, just give them incentive to stay in the business, give them more money. And it's funny because what happened was everyone started working twice as hard, doing so much more work. And because he had less equity of a bigger piece of pie, he eventually hit the $1 billion. And so that goes to show that a lot of times people really just want to be part of something and want to be incentivized to work with you. And so that's why I love that model. I didn't even know that you deploy the model like that because it just shows proof of concept, right?
Essentially, I became the matchmaker between homeowners wanting a piece of the short-term rental pie and then budding entrepreneurs who wanted a business opportunity. So I just put those people together in my property management business. And then I was off finding more listings to then put together. And so the idea was those co-hosts were being rewarded. I had some pretty set KPIs, key performance indicators. If we were consistently getting 4.9 stars or higher, well, 4.9 or 5 stars on those properties for cleaning, for guest communications, and I could see capacity for that co-host to take on more business, I'd give them another property. On the flip side, though, if they were getting low star rankings and any issues there, well, of course, we would try and retrain them, but then we would take off a property if they couldn't cope with it. So there was a system there that would reward them if they wanted to grow bigger. But then some of them were students, some of them were mums with little kids who only wanted 1 or 2 properties to just manage. And it was all about changing the narrative. I wasn't looking for cleaners to work for me. I wasn't offering a job. I was offering a business opportunity. And I was coming in saying, would you like a short-term rental business? I'm going to show you how to message. I'm going to show you how this business works. I'm going to give you some properties to manage and we're going to split the profits. I also then rewarded any of those people working for me if they were to bring in a lead, that a referral of a property that turned into a client, they got a kickback. And so suddenly I've got 18 salespeople out there working for my business, talking to people when they're grilling with their neighbors on the weekend and the neighbors say they're going on an extended vacation. My team was saying, can we look after your property for you? So that's how, that 130 properties came in 2.5 years by simply deploying this structure, and that framework blew it out of the water.
I have so many questions, but let's start with what other key players in your business other than co-hosts helped you scale? Because you said
Right.
virtual assistants as well. What kind of
No,
position?
yeah, so that's the one thing I didn't do. But in hindsight, if I was to probably run the business again, I would look at a virtual assistant, because what happened was those co-hosts were taking on, let's say, 5 properties. Well, that's 5 properties, but that's still 24/7. And I was finding that my co-hosts were risking getting burnt out because they were hungry for the money. They didn't want people to, they were proud of their properties. So they wanted to work 7 days a week. That's not great, because in the middle of the night, they were glued to the phone. And of course, if there was a message coming in, they were responding to it. In hindsight, I probably would have put on maybe 1 or 2 VAs for overnight communication just to cover off. And it might be that rather than 6% paying those co-hosts, I'd pay them 5%, but they would get 8 hours sleep a night. So that's probably one thing I would change. But my other key players that I had in my team, so I had 3 employees. I had 2 property managers, and I want to tell you about those people. And then I had an assistant. Now her job, because we had a physical office, she was front of house. She was the gorgeous girl at the front counter, but she also did a lot of the shopping for the properties, setting up the properties, going and get consumables, getting me cups of tea, getting me glasses of wine. No, but she was great. That role probably wasn't an essential role. The essential roles were the property managers. Now, at 50 properties, I found that I was struggling to supervise my co-hosts. I had about 8 co-hosts at that stage. No, maybe 5 co-hosts. Sorry, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. I probably had 5 co-hosts, 50 properties. And so I found that at 10 properties per co-host, that was probably a very good level to keep them at, very manageable. But I just found that I was supervising, I was dealing with homeowners, I was dealing with Airbnb, like with the damages, or any of that sort of, all that fun stuff you deal with Airbnb. God, nightmare. I was just too busy, and I found myself stuck at about that 50 mark. I was like, oh, I need to do something else to level up this business. And it was to put on a property manager who was then going to oversee those co-hosts, supervise the co-hosts, and then also go out there and do the appraisals on the properties, deal with the homeowners, onboard the new homes. Eventually I had 2, and all of my properties were within a maybe 25, 30 mile radius of each other. So all in the one city. And I just did it geographically. I had 1 in the beaches, 1 in the city, looking after a certain group of co-hosts, and then also looking after properties in that area. So I paid a salary plus some little bonuses. Folks never just pay an hourly rate or a salary. People just don't react well to, well, they do react well when you pay, but the novelty soon wears off. So you've got to incentivize, and it's always to throw a commission in there. Those roles allowed me to then work on the business again and be able to oversee. I couldn't give up the money. I wanted to make sure that all the payments were coming from me. I also wanted to make sure that I oversaw any recruiting that was coming on. So my 10 hours a week was pretty much made up of those minor tasks that I could have offloaded as well, but I still wanted to keep a finger in the business. So there you go. Now you've got all my secrets, Patrick. People are going to replicate. But no, it's
This
good.
is going to be
Folks,
a whole.
replicate it.
I don't know if this should be free, Julie. I don't know if this. We should probably start charging people to listen to this.
Don't worry. Actually, folks, if you are excited about it, I do charge for coaching, and then also the templates, all the paperwork that I used in my business, those management agreements and the host contracts, the employment contracts. I sell those. So thanks for the little opportunity to plug there, Patrick.
Plug it in. Plug it in. I mean, you're giving so much value. That's like a drop in the bucket. So let's really dive in even deeper. I want to get started, right? I want to get my first property. How do I find my first property? If Julie was talking in my ear on the side, what would Julie advise me to do for getting my first property?
The first one is the hardest. The first one is the trickiest. And a lot of people, this is where I need you, if you're listening in right now and you're facing this, you need to fake it till you make it. I hate to say it like that, but you need to have confidence. You need to have that reassurance that you know what you're doing. You are a professional, and you need to tell everybody what you're doing. It's amazing how many property managers do not even tell their family and friends what they are doing. get on social media and ask for business. There is a massive demand coming up in Scottsdale, Arizona for travelers. I think haven't they got the Super Bowl? Super Bowl's coming in February in Scottsdale. I am looking for 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes to manage on short-term rentals. Put it out there, folks. Tell people who you are, what you're offering, and then a call to action. And develop this elevator pitch is what I would say. 60 seconds, 90 seconds, have an elevator pitch that when someone says, Patrick, what are you up to these days? Boom, you can tell them exactly what you're up to and shout it to the rooftops. I also am a big fan of shirts with labels on it to tell people that you are running a property management business, or a name badge. Get yourself a website, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just one page, but give yourself a professional image. And folks, just get out there and, as I said before, talk to your neighbors, look for opportunities. Has someone got an RV parked in their front yard? Is there a boat in the marina that you could list on short-term rentals? Anywhere you can sleep, you can list as a short-term rental, which is kind of scary, but it works. If there's a tent in the backyard with a pillow there, off you go. But start somewhere, and I would always say, if you've got something that you can do locally, start locally so that you can do the cleaning, you can do the interaction. You've got to do the hard yards first before you can teach somebody else to do it. Folks, jump in and just do it. Like, don't hesitate. Just give it a go. You will make some mistakes, but you'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
And get some help. Get a mentor. Get Patrick to give you a hand, or get in touch with me.
It's great. And to jump off of that point as well, it doesn't cost money to start co-hosting. That's the beauty of this business, is the cash flow is great. I was just talking to somebody to get on as a client. Right now, I can't. Buying with 10% interest rate is just, whatever the rates are now, it's just tough. It's tough to make the numbers work. But when it comes to co-hosting, some of these people, I was just talking to somebody today, has like a $900 mortgage. That's mortgage, it's insurance, it's everything. I'm like, in Joshua Tree, like, you can make $5,000 a month in Joshua Tree minimum. So it's just, the range is there, and people have these great opportunities to really, they're in a better position. They can give you a cut of that as long as you take the, property away and make money for everyone. So everyone wins. Even 20% is awesome.
Yeah,
So,
and you're right. If you've got a mop, a bucket, a vacuum cleaner, a smartphone, guess what, folks? You could start a property management business tomorrow. My business, I had $9,000. I'm going to be honest, $9,000 is what I started with, but I didn't need to have $9,000. But with that, I bought a really good vacuum cleaner. I bought a couple of computers, and I got a website made, a really good website. And I put out some articles in glossy magazines telling people who I was, what I was doing, but also what I find works really well. If you're a property manager, you need to become an expert in short-term rentals in your local community. And to do that, give free information out. Absolutely shout it from the rooftops, anything that you can to help others get into the industry, like we're doing right now, in fact. And one of my favorite tips is Airbnb will give you a kickback for every person you refer. So one of the strategies I used in building my business was to offer free consultations to anybody who has never had an Airbnb account and interested in listing their own property on short-term rentals. So I put out there, I will do an hour's free consultation if you meet those requirements. So I had mum and dads who were looking to list their own homes. I would sit with them. Airbnb sometimes were giving me $900 for that referral kickback on when the first guest stayed in that particular property. So I was upfront so I was making some money there, but also what I was doing was the mum and dad that came in to get that consult thought that I was wonderful because I'm giving them all this free information. Of course, when the novelty wears off for them, they've cleaned the toilets so many times, they've made so many beds, they're sick of short-term rentals. They're going to come to a professional property manager and they're going to think of me. So folks, you could do that too. Start off by offering free consultations.
that is so insane that you said that, because I just did that for my local market. I'm going to just top on that. They have Facebook groups. Join those Facebook groups and just give free consultations, free knowledge. You're always there. And just don't try to just go right for the sell, right? What is somebody that is having issues right now, especially now in Joshua Tree, for instance, has been tough, right? So people are looking for free knowledge to help them because their listings aren't doing that well. You can come in there and not only do you demonstrate, A, you're an expert, B, you're giving so much of value right off the bat. You're going to be the first person they think of if they need somebody. And then 3, it's just good for the community. You're giving back. You're doing something good and you feel good about yourself. So I think it's a triple whammy. Also, if you want to tap on more benefits, it helps craft how well you digest the knowledge, because if you can actually teach knowledge to some people, then that means you actually adhere to that knowledge a lot better and you can actually put into practice. I'm a huge proponent of that. That is awesome knowledge.
Isn't that cool that you've
Great.
just done it?
Like this episode alone, you can literally go out there and just start co-hosting. You get $100,000 gross a year. 20% of that, that's 20 grand in your pocket. $20,000. Who in their right mind with $20,000 you can do so much with that, just extra income on the side, you know.
That's on one property, folks, because I'm just hearing Patrick say that. Like, I just had a look, this little 2-bedroom I've got across the road here, we've made 62,000 in 1 year on that property. I'm like, wowzers, you know. So you don't need many properties to actually cover off maybe what you're earning at the moment in your W2. So folks, seriously consider it. It could be a side hustle. It could be an empire like I built, and as you're building it, you're building a saleable business. So once you have 5 or 10 properties, you too may get a tap on the shoulder and someone may want to buy the management contracts. You need to have very good paperwork though, good management contracts, solid SOPs. So you need to really gear for that. But man, the ultimate payday can come. And like me, like I'm mid-40s now. I never have to work again. I work when I want to work. Like, far out. Woohoo. It's
Julie's just drinking wine every night. I've seen her partying it up at all these conferences, traveling to the US, traveling all over Australia, doing books, talking on stage. You know, no big deal. But yeah, I mean, but it's crazy because 2.5 years ago, it was longer than that, but
six years ago, 6 years ago, I had never even heard of short-term rentals. Didn't know what Airbnb was. 2016, thought, let's give this a go. And so I started where most of your listeners are starting, one property. We just all start with our one property. It's what you do with it from there, whether you take action, whether you take a leap of faith. Give it a go. And my favorite saying is dream big and then dream bigger. You know, so 6 months ago, my dream was reality TV. Guess what? It's happening. You know, Netflix, we're starting to film next month. Like, it's, folks, whatever you are dreaming out there can come true. You've just got to start with a decent dream. Come up with something exciting.
So, Julie, would you ever think that you were going to be a host on TV, Netflix show? Was that even in the vision when you were in 2016 starting this business?
Not in the beginning. In the beginning, I thought, wow, this is a really good concept, this Airbnb thing. Maybe I can get enough properties to give up my job as a realtor. So that was my first. But what you have to do with these dreams is just keep reassessing them and don't just achieve those dreams and then sit pretty. Keep always that momentum going. It's probably only 12 months ago that I thought, you know what, TV is where I want to go next, because someone said to me, oh, you've achieved everything. You've got best-selling books and you're traveling the world. What's next? And it suddenly occurred to me that I didn't have another dream. So I actually went, I want to be like Oprah. So you get a car, you get a car, you get
a car, you get an Airbnb, you get an Airbnb.
So I just thought, right, well, okay, I'm going to go reality TV. And so, I don't know, I've always been, I guess, living that law of attraction, where you put it out there, the universe delivers. Well, okay, so I guess what's the next one? Brad Pitt, George Clooney. If they want to come knocking on my door.
If you're listening to this podcast, George Clooney, whatever, or if that's your uncle, if that's somebody you know that you hang out with, I don't know, LA works in mysterious ways. go and contact Julie. So let's go into that actually. What's the next step for Julie? What's really Julie trying to do now that she's going to be famous on TV? What's next? Like president of Australia? I don't know. So do you guys even have a president? I don't even know.
We have a prime minister down here, but no one wants that job. No one wants that job. It's almost like Downing Street in London. No one wants that job. They keep switching over. But look, I think what's important to me now, it's not so much about earning money or making millions. It's actually about giving back. And I tell you what is next for me. Hospitable Hosts is being turned into a Netflix show. But what I'm doing currently is we're putting together Hospitable Host 2023, a book next year, compilation of 40 hosts. So I'm currently interviewing people to say, let's make you a published author. It works so well for me. And for me, it's about being an author suddenly is the best business card you've ever produced. It's opening doors, it's giving you opportunities, but it's a great legacy to leave your family. So if I can help other people become published authors, if I can impact on other hosts to be able to give them the paperwork, to give them the guidance to replicate the success that I've had, holy crap, that success is more exciting to me than my own success at the moment. So I guess I'm on a mission to see if I can help as many people as possible. I tell you what else I've just started doing that I love is emceeing events. I just emceed the largest conference down in the South Pacific here for short-term rentals. I love that. I love introducing people to the stage. I love celebrating, getting the audience to setting the tone and the energy for an event. That's me. So anybody who needs an MC for their daughter's wedding or for anything, love that. Do the Netflix show, help other hosts. That's my next 12 months.
That's huge. That is, and I can relate to that. You don't have to really get to your level, Julie, to really start giving back. I started the moment I had my first property, I was telling everybody everything that I was doing. And I think that's one of those beautiful things. I will never go out and say, hey, I have $1 million in my bank account, all this stuff. Like, I'm in the journey right now. I'm still going along, and that's okay. Because I think there's still a lot of value everyone can give no matter who they are. And I respect you for that, because that's a big reason why I enjoyed what I do. That's cool.
Look at what you've just done. And folks, if you are not familiar with Patrick, if you're just tuning in now, Patrick just put on one of the biggest events in short-term rentals in Las Vegas, STR Nation. And I just think that's fantastic. You've got a dream, you've taken action, and you're giving back to the community. It will pay off tenfold, Patrick. Every time you do that, you're putting out these podcasts. I've got goosebumps just right now thinking about your future. I wish I had started earlier and jumped in on this. Folks, you don't need to have earned millions of dollars to be able to give back. Start doing it now and it will pay off.
Yeah, and it's crazy because some of the previous guests I've had on the podcast, their lives totally transformed by in like 2-3 years, just giving back, not expecting anything in return, and things come back. It's just absolutely crazy. I do thank you for the kind words for the conference. I think the only thing that I would have done differently was had Julie as the MC, because now that I hear that she's actually offering the services, I never knew that was a thing. I had to be the MC. And guess what? I was drinking so many hot toddies. I literally was just trying to keep my throat at bay, because I was not only speaking, talking to people, coordinating everything, and then MCing at the end of it. I should have just honestly just hired you, Julie, just to MC, show your pretty face. You would have done a great job, and it would have been honestly a blessing. So for the next one,
what a good excuse to come back to the US. In fact, I've done 11 weeks. I've just done 11 weeks international travel, but I'll be back, folks. You watch, I'll be hitting the circuit again starting February next year and doing all major conferences.
I do want to kind of do the closing questions, but I want to do something a little bit more special with you. I want to do a little special question and add it in there. So, Julie, let's hear your top 3 stories of hosting throughout all the time. It could be an embarrassing story. It could be a tragedy. You don't have to scare everybody with all the stories, but you could talk about something crazy, amazing that happened that really changed your life. I want to challenge you to think of 3 separate stories to broadcast how it is for short-term rental
All
hosting.
right. Should we start with the ugliest one first? Let's start with
Let's start with the ugly one and then redeem
so
ourselves with
this
the
was probably
uplifting
in
one.
the first 10 guests that I had somebody who came to me direct. Now, this is where I may be a little scared about direct bookings, and I know that, so having a direct booking site is a massive trend at the moment. Folks, oh, I love the OTAs. I love the fact that the Airbnb covers me with $1 million host guarantee. I love that they do all the marketing for me. I don't mind paying them a commission if they're going to do all the hard work. And this is probably why. So I had a guest come to me directly. I had a phone call saying, we're looking for accommodation. Have you got anything? And I went, oh, I do. I've got a new property. I'm going to put you in there as the first guest of this new property. And the homeowner was desperate for me to start earning them some money, but was really one of those micromanaging pain in the asses, and excuse my language, but one of those property owners that I just had to impress. So I got this direct booking in, and within about 48 hours, I had a phone call from the police. We need you to come to this property. We understand you're the manager. So I turned up. Well, they were running a drug lab. So they turned this property, brand new property, into a drug lab. They'd stolen a motorbike and put the motorbike inside the property, caused so much damage, so much. What a freaking nightmare. And that nearly turned me off doing short-term rentals for good. That was probably the worst. And that put me off direct bookings as well, because I had no verification of the guest. I had no security. That was an awful experience. Okay, so bad experience.
You got to talk to Mark, Julie. Mark is going to be very disappointed in you.
I know. Don't show Mark Simpson this podcast. No, he knows. He's forever trying to get me to jump on board. Actually, direct bookings, go to Boostly. If you're going to do it properly, and you need to get it done, a website through Boostly.
We'll do a shout out. He's going to be on the podcast, so he's going to do all the shout outs. Much love to Mark.
Okay, second story is probably the most exciting guest, and that was a guest that gave birth in one of my short-term rentals. Can you imagine the extra cleaning fee that we had to charge? So folks, this lady came in. She was based on a rural property, and in Australia, our distances, we are the same land size as the United States. A lot of people don't realize that. So we are, and we've only got 26 million. So we're spread out. This woman, she needed to be near a hospital. She wasn't near a hospital the night she gave birth. She was in my property. She was waiting for her baby to come. Baby came too quickly. She gave birth in the ensuite. So that was kind of cool that we had a baby born in our short-term rental. But yeah, the cleaning was a bit, we had to go, yeah. Anyway, that's the story two. Story number three, probably a heartwarming story, is being able to provide accommodation to a family. One of my new properties that I run now is right next to the children's hospital, and little boy who was very, very ill, his family were the first guests that I had in this property, and they were so grateful to be able to have a home that they could stay in right next to the hospital, and the convenience. I got to meet the little boy, and it was just really special. So that's probably one of my favorite memories of a guest. I think I've had well over 6,000 or 7,000 guests. I mean, any one night, actually more than that, because I would have 400 to 500 guests per night staying in my properties at 130. So I was really running like a pseudo hotel, one of the biggest accommodation providers in my area. Anyway, there's your three stories, Patrick.
That is amazing. And I hope that it inspires people, because a lot of times when you hear about short-term rentals, you hear the worst of the worst. Yeah. And, yes, sometimes things like that happen, but it's the so beautiful moments,
yeah, it's so rare. In fact, of all those thousands of people, I can count on one hand the bad guests. Honestly, they're so rare, so rare. Everyone's on their best behavior with reciprocal review systems that Airbnb offers. So I don't know. I just think that, unfortunately, the press picks up on the negative stuff, but there's more happy stories than there is negative. Much more.
Yeah, people love the negativity. For some reason, people want to hear about drugs being used, being grown, being houses being trashed. That's what they want to hear, right?
The beautiful, the proposals that happen in your short-term rentals, which there's been plenty of those as well.
I've had that in my honeymoon cabin. I've had people get proposed, and I've rings on the, it's a whole thing. So cool. Awesome. Yeah. Let's go into the last question I have for you, Julie. and
Yes.
I could talk to you for freaking ages. So I'm just going to close this off and ask, where can people find you? That's number one. And number two, what is your ask? What are you looking for? What are you kind of looking to get out of if there's anybody out there that can help you?
Look,
George
folks,
Clooney.
oh, George Clooney. If anyone knows, well, actually, he's all loved up and he's got a beautiful one. I think Brad's still single. So look, if anyone knows Brad Pitt, get in touch. But folks, my big ask is that I want to impact as many short-term rental hosts positively. I would say if you want to buy either of the books that I've got, $1 Million Host or Hospitable Host, they're on Amazon. If you like it, leave me a good review. If you don't like it, just tell me privately. I had some guy the other day say, she sounds like a drunk soccer mum. Well, actually, that was a few years ago, and I still laugh about that review. So, folks, leave us a good review. I just thought that was great. You can get in touch with me. I'm human. I'm ready to answer your messages. May take me a few days, but Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, I am on all of the social media platforms. Look me up, Julie George, $1 Million Host. Send me your details. I'm offering free Zooms with anybody who just might need a little bit of help. So 15-minute free Zooms. Send me a message on social media. I'll send you a calendar link. Book in. Let's have a chat, because if you are somebody that I can help, if you're looking to scale your business, if you're looking to put some of that framework in, I do one-on-one consultations, but I only take about 5 clients at a time because I want to dig in deep to your businesses. If you're somebody I can't help, if there's somebody that's better suited to you, a coach in the industry, a program, an education course, I'll recommend it to you. But come and have a chat to me. I'm here in Australia. I like to have a cup of tea with you, and I'm human. So folks, get in touch.
Get in touch with Julie. She's amazing. She will give you the time of day. A lot of people will charge you for that 15 minutes. And I swear, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen $200 for 15 minutes. I've seen it, because time is valuable, but Julie is so accessible. Use that. It's like going to your teacher for office hours. Just use it. Thank you so much. Once again, Julie, you're amazing. Thank you for everything you do. And I'm going to catch you on the Netflix show. I can't wait to see your big smile on the screen. So it's going to be really exciting.
Thank you for having me, Patrick. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today.